Check it out. Oh, yeah.
Is it staccato, staccato, or sticky taco? I don't know what it is. I just know the sounds it makes when these ports rupture my eardrums because my ear pro isn't all the way on. If you enjoyed that montage of pure American freedom, and I know you did, King, because you are a Wyatt Earp gunslinging son of a buck, go ahead and drop a comment and hit that little subscribe button. The algorithm gods will bless you with good karma. Listen, Cody Curry here, and this is 110 SAS Actual, a two-part episode in store for you here today. To port or not to port, to modify or not to modify, and an in-depth look at the Staccato P 2011. The Staccato took the gun community by storm over these past few years. In a time where toilet paper aisles were bare, people turned to the next most logical alternative, the Staccato, of course. While the 2011 pistol is absolutely nothing new, these things were popping up everywhere in shooters' hands during the last few years. So, let's say you're thinking about finally getting one for yourself. This video is just for you. Or maybe you've had a 2011 for a few years and considering getting this thing tuned up like a NASCAR pit stop. This video is for you. So, let's dive in and talk about what exactly is a 2011. Well, Hoss, this ain't exactly your grandpappy's World War winning machine. While it's definitely based on our Lord, Saint, and Savior John Moses Browning's design of the 1911, there are quite a few improvements over the 1911 implemented into this design, and we'll touch on those very quickly. Biggest differences between the two is a double-stacked magazine and a two-piece frame. There are some other minor details, but overall, it's a much more modular platform and has sealed its place as a stout contestant in the competition gun community, becoming increasingly popular with law enforcement and duty guns and everyday carry weapons. So why is it so popular? And what makes Hypebeast scream so loud about it? Well, let's get into it. The Staccato P is what I have here. Between this and the C2, which is the shortened version of the P, it is by far the most popular variant of the weapon. It has a 4.4-inch bull barrel. You have your choice between a steel and aluminum frame, an ambidextrous safety, Dawson Precision fiber optic front sight, a crispy two-stage 4-pound trigger pull, and it weighs in between 28 to 33 ounces depending on which frame material you pick. I personally went with the steel because the possibility of tolerances loosening up over time and heavy use versus the aluminum wasn't worth the weight savings. The grip can have two different textures, your normal grip here and your tack grip here. This is ultimately just a preference thing. The tack grip is an upcharge, so unless you need maximum tacticalness, you know what to do. I felt both. Honestly, neither really impressed me tremendously, so you do your thing. You have an option to have the slide cut for an optic from the factory. Or if you're part of the Iron Sight gang, no problem. You can opt out of that. However, I would recommend getting yours with the optic cut because it doesn't actually affect the functionality of the irons. And if you ever change your mind down the road and say you want an optic on this, you won't be out a few $100 in a couple weeks having a professional do it for you. So you know about them. But how do they run? And when do we get to that porting and modification part? Listen, you just gotta be patient. Old dad's gonna bring it all back home here. So to tell you a little bit about myself, I come from a background of Glocks. To me, the extent of caring about handgun performance was, does it go bang every single time I tell it to? Okay, cool, that works. I never really cared for handguns. If it does that, that's what I'll take. I was proficient with my Glock 17, but to me, it was just like a tool weapon. Doesn't need to do anything well other than, again, go bang every single time I tell it to. So, the first real thing I noticed when I picked up my Staccato was how well the weight was distributed throughout the gun. It felt solid. It felt like an extension of my own hand. It has an excellent grip angle compared to, like, say, a Glock and some of the other striker-fired pistols. You know, it's an extension of my own hand versus a tool I'm using and I need to manipulate in order to be proficient with. Then, I rack the action back. What a world of difference. The best way to describe it is as if the slide where it meets the frame is set on ball bearings. There's no grit. There's no random peaks of tension throughout the rack. It's just smooth, one continuous pull. Compared to a Glock or even some of the other higher end handguns of today, and it's completely different feel. It's a fitted piece of metal, fitted to another piece of metal with super tight tolerances, which kind of makes each pistol unique in its own way because every single component is built to your gun. It's not exactly like a Glock build where you have 67 different manufacturers' parts all working together at once. It's a professional's pistol. Accuracy is absolutely outstanding. I wasn't even really aware handguns were capable of something like this. Again, coming from a striker-fired, run-of-the-mill pistol, it was shocking to me to see some of my 25 and 30-yard groups. I mean, look at this video here.
Staccato P, right here at 100 yards. Let's see what this guy can do. I'd say it's not too bad. Not too bad at all.
I surprised myself, really. I figured I just needed more work when attempting the same feat, with a cheaper gun like a Glock. The trigger on the 2011 is absolutely unbeatable, period. It's a two-stage, ultra crispy break. You know exactly when that hammer is going to fall, versus, say, something like a striker-fired pistol, which is essentially a rubber band that teeters right on the brink of, maybe this could go off, wait, no, not yet, wait, maybe, kablam! Well, that's not what I wanted to do. Dang it. Now you have quite a few options for magazines as well. 17 rounders all the way up into the high 20s. The 17s fit nice and flush here, if that's your style. However, I've found the 20 round mags are absolutely my favorite. They don't fit flush, but that's kind of the point. And that's kind of the advantage in my opinion. That extra inch of clearance gives you a touch more leverage over the magazine and really helps you seat that mag home. So we know the Staccato, it's a phenomenal piece. But here's the thing, a Staccato or any expensive handgun isn't going to make you a better shooter. If you suck, that's okay, get good. If you're good, get gooder. A Staccato or any high-end duty handgun is something you buy once you've reached a point that you're legitimately limited by the ability of a mass-produced pistol. It will help a great shooter just over that little hump of performance. I look at it as if you're a great shooter and you have built your fundamentals into a solid foundation. The Staccato can get you to that next little level of proficiency and performance. It's a phenomenal piece of kit, undoubtedly. And when it comes to 2011s, these things can range from $1,500 all the way up to like $8,000, some cases even more. These guys are right around $2,700. And while they may not be the very best 2011 on the market, they are, in my opinion, undoubtedly the best for the price. And that brings us to our next point. When should you modify your 2011 and what should you modify and if you should even touch it at all? Let's dive in. So let me give you a breakdown of what I've done to my Staccato here and what made me decide to do so. The heart and soul of a firearm, in my opinion, is the trigger. It can literally make or break a firearm for me. It needs to be crisp. It needs to be reliable. And most importantly, I need to have complete 110% control and confidence in exactly when that thing is going to go bang. A 2011 trigger is just going to be hard to beat, especially when the pistol market is predominantly owned by striker-fired pistols. And gentlemen, there's maybe 1 or 2 striker-fired pistols on the market that even come close to a stock 2011 trigger. And even then, those options, well, they aren't really that impressive. So from the factory, your Staccato is going to have a 2-stage trigger with what is roughly a 4-pound break. This is absolutely fine trigger. It will serve shooters far better than myself very well. However, I like my triggers a little light. Actually, real light. I'd like to think I have, well, pretty fair trigger discipline. I mean, I haven't shot my leg off yet, so I think we're on the right track, but hey, there's still time, so we'll see. So I started off with a trigger. I went with a flat face trigger versus a bow shape. To me, this is all really just a matter of preference. I don't think there's a right or wrong choice, whether you go flat or with a bow, circles, rhombus, trapezoid, whatever. Whichever best fits you is what is best. So with an ignition upgrade in a flat face trigger, I was able to get this tuned down to 2-pound trigger pull with an even more crisp candy cane-like snapping break. A lighter trigger isn't necessarily going to make you a more accurate shooter, nor a better shooter. While it can absolutely aid in breaking shots without as much force applied to it, it plays a very minimal role in the entire process. However, a clean and consistent snap of that trigger is what will really allow you to be deliberate in your shots. And if you have 110% confidence in exactly what point in the travel of your trigger that hammer will fall, you can make the gun go bang when you want it to and where you want that bullet to end up. Do I recommend a trigger upgrade? Yes, absolutely. But only after you have a solid feel of the stock trigger. This isn't going to be a trip to your indoor range and rattle off a few mags and say, yup, I am absolutely ready for a better trigger. No. Get to a real outdoor range, go take a couple laps, do some air squats, and get that heart rate up, then run some drills. This will not only give you a much more realistic scenario of you using your firearm, but also amplify your shortcomings and tell you exactly where you and your pistol is lacking. Once you've done that, you can really make an educated decision on what needs to be done about your trigger. So the next thing I want to talk about is the slide stop. From the factory, you have a shorter, more stubby, just run-of-the-mill 1911, 2011 slide release. Functionality-wise, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. However, I'm 6'3" and what I think is normal-sized hands. I can't exactly drop that slide stop with my strong side thumb without reaching and stretching a little bit. And that reaching moves my grip on the handgun just enough to make it uncomfortable to get back into its firm and stable shooting position. If you've ever fired a modern striker-fired pistol, you will know what I mean when I say you have to stretch that thumb to manipulate that slide release. So what you're supposed to do, because the slide release on a striker is a little bit shorter and you can hit that with your strong side there, you roll the pistol over when you actually drop your magazine. Slightly roll it in towards you and your support hand loads your fresh mag in and your support thumb here manipulates that slide stop. If you've grown up on the 1911 platform, there won't really be a learning curve here for you. However, if you come from, a modern striker-fired pistol background like myself, your strong hand thumb drops that slide stop every time. I'm not going to get into which is more gooder because honestly, really neither are wrong. Really, if you are more proficient with one way, stick with it and excel. However, I can tell you from my experience, the strong side thumb drop of the slide release is faster and more efficient for me. So that's what I've chosen to excel at. So I searched out and found the Triarch extended slide stop. This thing is absolutely perfect. No more stretching thumbs and potentially losing a good stable grip. Just insert the mag and drop that slide stop. The extra length gives you some more leverage on the piece so it takes minimal effort to drop the part and then find it. Now both the trigger and the slide stop will very likely require some hand fitting. This is totally normal when it comes to high-end 1911s. It's not always one size fits all like your standard run-of-the-mill Glocks. Fitting parts isn't a science rocket, it's polishing parts. And polishing is simply removing a small amount of material off of the part so you guessed it, it fits. If this seems like a daunting process, no problem. There are more than just a few smiths out there willing to do the work for you and do it well. And finally, I had the handgun ported. The purpose of porting a barrel is to drastically reduce the felt recoil of the firearm. Less recoil transferred from the gun into your hand and up into your arms will absolutely lead to a faster return to zero and faster, more accurate follow-up shots. Now, there's no shortage of comps, chunks, and ports out there. There's inline stacked ports, V8 ports, one giant chunk taken out of the end of the barrel. There's comps that attach to the end of the barrel. There's popcorn shrimp, coconut shrimp, shrimp and potato shrimp salad, and shrimp stew. Quite a few choices, all of which get the job done. So I myself decided to go with the V8 style porting, as most of that gas and flames and carbon will be directed off at an angle out of my center field of view, versus say like a large chunk that's right in line with my optic that shoots all of that carbon junk and just straight up into the air. Neither option is wrong really. All of these options drastically reduce recoil. So I don't think there's a right or wrong choice as long as your work is performed by a good, competent smith. So let's talk about the actual reduction in recoil. These ports are a legitimate game changer. A 9mm is already flat and already soft shooting. The Staccato makes that 9mm feel even softer. Porting it? Well, it's a bit like cheating. I feel more recoil from the slide moving back rather than the energy transfer of that 9mm explosion right in front of my face. It's kind of wild really. I didn't know what to expect when I got it at first, but when I did, it was an absolute game changer. Accurate follow-up shots are twice as fast. Your transitions between targets are smoother, and you just have a new felt control over your handgun. In my opinion, ports inspire a whole new level of confidence in your firearm. I know I'm guilty of it. I'm certain there's far greater shooters way better than me that are just as guilty of anticipation of recoil. Whether it's driving the muzzle down before you're shot, anticipation of the recoil, tensing up your grip right before that hammer breaks, it can be anything. Porting not only gives you an extra edge of mental confidence in managing your firearm's recoil, but obviously physical as well. It's a no-brainer to have this done to your pistol, and manufacturers have noticed this. They notice the community's want for this. More and more handguns drop every single day with a factory built-in comp or ports for good reasons. Serious shooters want them because they simply work. So there's only one question left. Do you tune up your 2011? My answer to you is a two-parter, started with a question to you back of my own. Are you, as a shooter, do you have the rock-solid fundamentals and experience built up to justify an expensive upgrade that will void your warranty? Do you currently use a handgun that doesn't allow you to reach your next level of shooting ability? Are you currently limited by that stock production handgun? Kings, you have to ask yourself, hit the range, look in the mirror, give yourself a little wink, a PowerPoint, because you've made it here to this channel. So of course, you pistol slinging Wyatt Earp son of a buck, you deserve the best and only the best. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.